All right. Hi, Kelsey. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am good. Thank you so much for joining me today. This actually is going to be my second episode recording. So I'm pretty excited and nervous, but I'm
Oh,
really,
yay.
thank you. I'm so happy that you decided to take the time to tell us a little bit about yourself. So I guess the first question I wanted to ask is if you could just explain to me or us why you agreed on sharing your story with us today.
I think any opportunity I have to share a success story, especially surrounding addiction and, becoming a successful woman owner, it like I always want to take that opportunity to do so because there's so many people that are still struggling in silence. And if we, the ones who have recovered, can share their story loudly and proudly, then my only goal is just to like hopefully inspire someone.
I love that. That's awesome. All right. So I see that you're a content creator. You have stunning photos and videos, and I came across your stuff probably wearing pink. You're probably wearing something pink, and I was like, oh my God, that's so cute and so pretty. I was like, I have to follow her. By the way, I have your cup, like literally made top to bottom, and I have not packaged it, but I promise you I will ship it
Oh my gosh,
next
I
week.
can't wait.
I just thought about it. I was like, wait a minute, that's still sitting on my desk. Okay, I still have your cup. So with social media, like visually, since everything's so stunning and seems so perfect and effortless, do you feel like you have a high standard to like appeal or compel like to maintain that image of everything's perfection and you know portraying that story?
Honestly, no. And I always like to tell people social media is a highlight reel, right? So, like, everything may seem perfect. And I do try to be like as open and honest and real as possible. I do try to keep my like feed post and stuff very positive, very inspiring, very aesthetic, where it looks all pretty. Like you said, the pretty pictures, the pretty videos. But in my stories, that's where like we get real and stuff. I can't even count how many times I've cried on my stories before, just being very like open and real about things. So I don't feel like I need to nor want to like portray this like perfect image because it's not reality, Social media is definitely a highlight reel, and it's very rare when you actually come across content creators that are super vulnerable. And a lot of people like mask it under, oh well, I just don't want to be negative, I don't want to be negative, so I try to keep it positive. No, girl, like we want to see the negative, we want to see the real, the raw, the relatable, the things that like connect us together. So I always do try to keep my feed and stuff very positive, but also be real at the same time. And then the great thing about that is stories that expire in 24 hours, so you don't keep that like
Yeah.
realness or that like negativity up there for long.
See, that's why I wanted to do this podcast because I was like, I know everyone sees like the glitz and the glam of everything of what you want to portray. Like me personally, when I do my lives on TikTok, I don't know if you've ever seen them, but they're super over the top and I'm wearing these big poofy gowns and I've
Yes.
got like wigs on and I'm all happy and everyone's like, "Oh my God, how do you like be so happy?" I'm like, well, first of all, I probably had a drink or two before I got on. But, and I'm like, in reality, I probably was yelling at my kids to hurry up and go to bed like 5 minutes before this. But yeah, that's the
Yeah.
reason why I wanted to do this is so I could get everyone's like true story of like who they really are and, where they came from. So with
Yeah.
that being said, if you had to start your following over, all your following, you had no followers, no subscribers, nothing. You're at zero. Would you do anything differently to start out?
I think I would start being honest from the beginning. So when I first started growing, this is like the biggest thing I tell people, and where a lot of people get like where their biggest mistake comes in. And I think it's just human nature, if I'm honest, but we feel like we have to post what we want people to see, right? So, like, you think, like, okay, well, what does people want to see? And I know I was even asking people, like, what should I post? And like, what kind of
Yeah.
content do y'all want to see? But don't do that. Post yourself, be your true, authentic self. This is your account. And then people will say, like, well, what if people don't like me? You're not gonna be everybody's cup of tea, right? But the ones that are are your cup of tea, you're going to find your crowd, right? So like the people that want to be there will be there and they will support you through and through. The ones who aren't are not your people, and that's okay. Let them go find their people. All they got to do
Yeah,
is scroll and keep it moving. But I know for
exactly.
myself, I was not very like on it. I was doing that. I was posting what I thought people wanted to see. I thought like all my pictures had to be like perfectly edited, you know, like very well lit and XYZ. And honestly, no, like people just want to see you be you and be real. And I wish I would have started that from the get go. And then once I started gaining some followers, a lot of people knew about my past, especially like my local community. So just to touch on that really quick, I was in active addiction for 13 years. I had 3 DUIs. I was in and out of jail. And I went to rehab in 2018, got sober, but my addiction was a big part of my life for a very long time.
Mhm.
And so a lot of people knew about that. I mean, back when I was in the thick of my addiction, there was people on social media like sharing my mugshots around, and it was humiliating. So I
Wow.
started my social media like just being a makeup artist and like sharing makeup. And then I started to grow. And I knew like, you know, I was sitting there like preaching to people like, be yourself, tell your story, be real, be raw. But yeah, I wasn't doing that. You know, I wasn't doing that. So I'm like, what room do I have to talk to people about being their true self and being authentic when I have this big giant secret that like, you know, only my local community really knows about? So then, you know, 4 or 5 months into my social media journey, I like dropped a huge bombshell and like, you know, really started sharing like recovery content and like kind of how I got to where I am. And it wasn't until I started doing that like I found my people, you know, the people that were still struggling, the people that were in recovery as well. And, you know, my following started to go up a lot quicker. And that's when I really like realized like, wow, people just want to see the real, the raw. They don't want to see the pretty makeup looks and the all done up
Yeah.
hair and the cute clothes. They want to see real, raw, like life events. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah,
that's the
exactly.
biggest thing I would change is just sharing my story from the get go.
Because they could relate to you more, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.